Are you interviewing for the position of a quality assurance manager? These 25 questions could be exactly what you will be asked during that interview. So make sure you know how to answer them effectively. Welcome to the Quality Mentor. In this video, I will walk you through 25 essential quality assurance interview questions and answers specifically for managers and supervisors that will help you prepare for your interview with confidence.
The very first question that is obvious that it's always been asked is tell me about yourself. And a simple answer I've made for you here is I am a quality professional with experience. You state the number of years you have experience and the area where you have expertise working. It could be in manufacturing, it could be in automotive, it could be aerospace, it could be in the pharma industry, food and beverage industries, whatever. You can also say that you have led quality activities, you have supported cross-functional teams, investigated non-conformances, implemented corrective actions, and used data to improve processes. Also, you can say that you have managed compliances, you have developed people, trained people, you have used data to be able to drive continuous improvement. The next question you could be asked is what are the primary responsibilities of a quality assurance manager? The first is a quality manager is responsible for maintaining the effectiveness of a quality management system. They ensure regulatory and customer requirements are met. They make sure they investigate CAPA's corrective actions. They manage audits, they review quality metrics, they support risk management, and they ensure employee training and compliance. Those are the primary responsibilities of the QA manager. The next question is how do you build a strong quality culture? You start building a strong quality culture with a leadership behavior. You need to establish clear expectation. You need to train your employee. You need to make sure that quality responsibilities are visible. Encourage your employee. Report problems without any fear of retaliation. And use quality data to drive decisions. Also, you make corrective actions to address systemic causes rather than simply blaming individuals. The next question is how do you handle conflicts between quality assurance and production? Of course, this is going to happen wherever you are working. Quality department always have conflict with production. But then your area shouldn't be focused on the problem. You should understand that quality and production work together to produce results and increase uh, profits, grow the company reputation, provide customer satisfaction. So you wouldn't want to focus your answer here on just seeing that production is kind of a problem. So a good answer you could use is you do not approach quality and production as opposing teams. They are not opposing teams. You have to understand that you all have an overall objective that is to deliver a compliant product efficiency. So your product needs to be efficient, and for it to be efficient you need to work together. So you can also explain that whenever there is disagreement, you be able to bring forth your discussions based on specification procedures, risks, and data objectives. Also, you will not want to dismiss production's concerns. Of course, production wants to meet up with their targets, but then you are not just going to not listen to their concerns. You also want to say that you are going to collaborate collectively with production to be able to find a solution. Remember, quality is not just meant for the quality assurance personnel or the quality control specialist. Everyone in the production facility is part of the quality team as well. Your next question here is, what will you do if production pressured you to release a failed product? Number one, you would not release a product simply because of production pressure. I tell you, you are going to have pressure from production. Like I said, production want to meet up with the production schedule. But will you release a bad product to the customer? No, you cannot do that because you don't want to damage the reputation of the company. You do not want to cause dissatisfaction from your customers. You don't want to incur governmental penalties. You don't want to um, lose a lot of money, cause rework, and whatever stress you have. So you are not going to release a defective product simply because of production failure. You can also say you will ensure that the product is properly identified and controlled. You're going to review every applicable requirement and investigation. You are going to make every release decision based on objective evidence and approved procedures. So if the product doesn't meet the requirements, we need to follow the appropriate disposition process. Production urgency does not override product quality or compliance requirement. Here is a key. Production urgency does not override product quality or compliance requirements. So the fact that you're being pressured by production to release a failed product, it doesn't mean that you're just going to release it. If a product failed, then it failed. It wasn't your problem. It wasn't your fault. So what you need to do is to find a solution to the problem. Next question is, how do you manage a CAPA? CAPA simply means corrective action and preventive action. So you manage a CAPA as a complete cycle: problem identification, problem containment, investigation, and you determine the root cause of the problem. You bring a corrective and preventive action wherever it is necessary. You implement effectiveness through verification. You can also monitor the CAPA trends to identify recurring problems and systemic weaknesses. So, of course, um, monitoring corrective actions and preventive actions is going to tell you if the problem you're solving is actually working or not. Is it something that is reoccurring over and over, or it is due to a weak system? Suppose you are using a production software to record data. Maybe you use software like Minitab, Master Control, SAP, but then you notice that problems arises from the system itself. You want to make sure that you correct the system itself. Uh, the next question is, what makes a good root cause investigation? A good investigation starts with clearly identifying the problem and the objective evidence. Remember, when a defective product is found, you don't just discard the product. You need the evidence of a product. For example, if you have leaking tubes in a production or in a pharma company, you're producing toothpaste, and you notice that the tubes are leaking. You found one of the tubes leaking. You're not just going to discard the leaking tube. What you're going to do is to keep the leaking tube. You'll be able to know or identify what is causing that problem. You can use tools such as the 5 whys. Like I said, you ask why many times, not just 5 times. You ask why several times until you find the underlying cause of the problem. You use a fishbone diagram. The fishbone diagram you implement using the 6M categories: man, machine, method, measure, mother nature, and whatever you have. You can also use tools such as the Pareto principle. The Pareto principle uses the 80-20 method. It tells you the problem you need to solve or prioritize first. You can use the FMEA tool, which is the failure mode and effect analysis, which gives you a prediction of how a mode is able to fail over time. You can use statistical analysis wherever appropriate. You can also use appropriate needs to support your evidence. The next question is how do you prioritize quality problems? First, you use the risk-based approach. For you to be able to uh, use the risk-based approach, you need to understand the FMEA tool, which is the failure mode and effect analysis, because this tool is going to help you rank the problem based on the severity of the problem, the detection, and the occurrence. Is the problem is the problem severe? Is it major? Is it minor? That tool is going to help you to identify that. And once you have identified that, you can then use the Pareto principle, the risk-based method. It tells you which one to prioritize first. So you want to consider severity, potential customer or patient impact, regulatory impact, the scope of the problem, the occurrence, the detectability, and the business impact. So the FMEA tool tells you that if the severity multiplied by the occurrence multiplied by the detectability is greater than 100, then it calls for an immediate action. Next question here is how do you prepare for a regulatory audit? Of course, remember it is one of the key responsibilities of a QA manager to perform audits. So your question or your answer will be you believe that the company needs to be audit ready at all times rather than just waiting for an auditor to arrive before you prepare for an audit. So you want to make sure that everywhere is compliant, everybody is compliant, and everything is ready in terms of in case any auditor has to visit your facility. It could be the FDA auditor that is coming in or just your regular internal audits. You want to also make sure you monitor SOP compliance, standard operating procedure compliance, training, CAPA, deviations, change controls, documentation, equipment status, complaints, and quality metrics. The next question you could be asked is, what would you do after receiving a major audit finding? First, you would ensure appropriate containment and understand the scope of the finding. Then you will perform a thorough root cause investigation, determine whether the issue is isolated or systemic, develop risk-based corrective actions, establish response owners and deadlines. So people need to take responsibility of solving the problem. Maybe it's your supervisor, maybe it's your manager or whoever. Oh, of course, here you are the manager. So you have to have a deadline in solving that problem. You need to verify the effectiveness and communicate the process of correction to your leadership, maybe to your immediate uh, uh, director or vice president. And also, you need to ensure the organizations learn from the finding. So, everyone within the organization needs to learn that this is what you actually found, these are the corrective actions, these are the preventive actions moving forward. The next question you could be asked is what is the difference between quality assurance and quality control? Of course, every manager should be able to know these differences. Quality assurance is proactive and is process focused by preventing defects before they even happen, while quality control is product focused and is reactive. So they detect defects. So uh, quality control they do a lot of tests using different tools, sampling methods, and techniques to be able to come about a detection problem. uh The next question is, what is a quality management system? A quality management system is a structured framework of processes, procedures, responsibilities, records, and controls an organization uses to consistently meet quality requirements and improve its performance. The next question will be, what is risk management? Risk management is the systematic process of identifying potential hazards or failures, evaluating their likelihood and impact, implementing controls, and monitoring residual risks. Remember that risk management is very, very important. When we talk about risk management, we are not saying that the company will be perfect all the time. There are moments where there will be vulnerabilities, there will be some loopholes. But how do you manage that as a quality assurance manager? That is what the interviewer is trying to test from you. The next question is, what is FMEA? That is failure mode and effect analysis, which is a proactive risk analysis tool used to identify potential failure modes, their effects and causes, existing control, and appropriate risk reduction actions. Like I explained earlier, it's going to tell you how severe a problem can be. What is a deviation? As the next question. A deviation is a departure from an approved procedure, specification, process, or established requirement. So if anything goes out of what has been established, then it's a deviation. Straightforward. What is an OOS result? That is out of specification result. It is just a test result that falls outside an established specification or acceptance criteria. Your next question will be, what is a change control? A change control is a formal process for evaluating, approving, and implementing changes that could affect product quality, processes, equipment, system, or compliance. That is a change control. So you do not just change things because you feel as changing them. There should be a procedure or a protocol to implement that change. Your next question could be, how do you measure quality assurance performance? You measure CAPA overdue dates, CAPA effectiveness, deviation closure time, repeat deviation, audit findings, customer complaints, out of specification trends, the first pass healed, scrap and rework, training compliances. So you need to understand that you do not just rely on one matrix as a quality assurance manager. You need to balance uh, everything together. You need to put in place many of these things together to be able to have or to measure your matrix or your data. Next question, how do you manage a quality assurance team? Number one, you establish clear expectations. What you expect from your team, you have to tell them clean and plain. Assign responsibilities based on strengths and development needs. So give projects to people based on how they are, you have seen them work and how you feel and think that they are able to handle based on their competencies and their experience. Monitor the performance of your team and provide coaching wherever necessary. Make sure employees have the right training and resources required to succeed. Also, you need to encourage ownership rather than creating a culture where every quality decision has to come through the manager. So, as a manager, you have to encourage your team to know that at some point they are able to make certain decisions. And for them to make certain decisions, they have to be able to take ownership of solving a problem. If not, they will rely solely on you. And as such, you'll be overwhelmed by the entire process. Your next question is, how do you deal with an underperforming employee? How do you deal with an underperforming employee? How do you deal with that? Number one, you want to determine whether that issue is related to their training, their resources, unclear expectation, their workload, and their performance. You want to communicate to them their gaps wherever they are lacking. Establish measurable expectation. You have to tell them what you expect of them in terms of data. You need to provide appropriate coaching and training to them effectively. Monitor their improvements. If performance does not improve, then you need to follow the organization's formal performance management process. Your next question is, how do you develop quality professionals? You can say that you use a combination of technical training, cross-functional exposures, mentoring, project ownership, and measurable development goals. So you need to assign goals and projects to your team. You want to also make sure that your team members, they progress from simply following procedures to understanding the risks and the business reasons behind every procedure. The next question is, tell me about a time you improve a quality process. You are always going to face this question when you are going in for an interview of this magnitude, but use the STAR method. S for situation, you need to explain what was happening or what happened. T is the tasks, you need to explain what you were responsible for. A for the action, what you did personally in solving that problem. And then R is for the result, what measurable improvement occurred. So a strong result could conclude, we reduce the defect rate, reduce rework, improve the turnaround time, increase the first pass yield, and reduce the customer complaints. Always use real numbers when possible. The next question is, what will you do if your best employee made a serious quality mistake? Of course, you're always going to come across mistakes. People make mistakes because human errors are not perfect, or humans are not perfect. The first thing is, you will treat the situation objectively. Objectively means you want to first of all protect the product and the customer by containing the impact of that problem. Then you will investigate what happened and determine whether it was an individual error, a training problem, a procedural weakness, system failure, or a combination of all these factors. Also, you want to make sure that you tell your interviewer that accountability is important, but so is understanding whether the system allowed the error to occur in the first place. That is why every system always have in place uh, the failure mode and effect analysis tool that will be able to predict if a process is going to fail or not. The next question you could be asked is, what if you disagree with your quality assurance director? Yes, there are moments where your director could tell you something, but then at some point you don't see it to go that way, and perhaps you are thinking that it might cause further problems or whatever. But the interviewer here is trying to understand how you will be able to take decisions. They want to see if you are able to communicate effectively with your hierarchy. So, an answer for you here is, you will respectfully posi- uh, present your position using objective evidence, the risk assessment, applicable requirements, and data. You have to show it to your director. You will listen to their perspective and try to reach a fact-based decision. You have to listen to them, and then you both will be able to come to term in making the right decision. And once a management decision is made, you will support it unless it would require violating quality, legal, or regulatory requirements. So, of course, the fact that your director told you to do something, you cannot just go ahead and do it based on what they said. You equally want to make sure it is not violating quality, is not violating any legal procedures or regulatory requirements. Regulatory requirements here talks about the government policies that have been set in place for the facility where you are working. For example, if it is in manufacturing, the FDA have regulatory requirements. So if your director tells you something and it goes against those requirements, you are not obliged to follow it. Because if you do, then you are setting your company or your organization for uh, penalties. The next question will be, what is your management philosophy? You can say your management philosophy is people, process, and performance. I call it the 3 Ps. People, process, performance. That's your performance. That's your philosophy. You develop people, you strengthen processes, and you use measurable performance indicators that we also call KPIs, that's the key performance indicators, to determine whether you are achieving your quality objectives. And you can also say that you believe that a strong manager or a strong quality manager should be firm on quality requirements while remaining collaborative with other departments. A next question, the 5 questions you should master. Absolutely, you must master them. If you are in a rush to go for your interview, you didn't prepare well for your interview, here are the 5 questions that you should master them. The first question is, tell me about yourself. They're going to ask you. The second, describe a major quality problem you have solved. The third, how do you handle conflicts between quality assurance and production? The fourth, how do you manage CAPA and root cause investigation? And then the fifth, what would you do if management pressured you to release non-conforming products? That is the These are the 5 questions that you should absolutely know at your fingertips. As a key takeaway, you have to understand that for a quality assurance manager, interviewers are not just looking for someone who knows quality terms. They want evidence that you can lead people, make difficult quality decisions, manage risks, communicate with senior leadership, and turn quality data into measurable business improvements. If you like this video, don't hesitate to drop your comments, share, subscribe to the Quality Mentor for more interview tips with quality assurance and quality control.